What up, you fluffy bastards? My name is Liquid Blitz, and welcome back to the next video in my Superclass series for Battlefield 1. This time, class number 6 is called the Jackson class. Haste thee to help me. I've named it Jackson because for some reason it reminds me of Private Jackson in Saving Private Ryan. Probably because of how fast it sort of shoots accurately. Although a bit of trivia, in Saving Private Ryan, Jackson actually uses an M1903 Springfield, which is also in Battlefield 1. I'm going to follow the same method as all the other Superclass videos. I'm going to go through the class loadout, and then I'll switch the background to the gameplay of the class for the remainder of the video while talking about the strengths of this class and bringing you some tips of how to use this class effectively. Right, let's go through the class loadout. If you haven't guessed already, this is using the Scout class, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about why I chose these things. As usual, I'll go through why I chose them more sort of in the strengths section in a minute. Let's just rattle these things off nice and quick. This is using the Scout class, and it's a carbine rifle. It's a close-range carbine class. Now, I've chosen the Gouveia M95, the carbine version. If you're wondering why I chose the carbine over the infantry, it's for the extra hip-fire accuracy, which I'll get into a bit more later. Now on that, it needs the dot reticle, dot or ring, but I've gone with a dot, and a 2.5 times magnification. That's important as well. And bayonet just for extra fun, frankly. Extra fun, extra defense, and if you've got it, the Edelweiss, I don't know how to pronounce that, but that sexy looking brown skin. Anyway. The pistol for this I've chosen is the Mars Automatic, and that has a load of strengths in itself. As usual with my pistol choice, it's always a 1.25 times zoom, and the camos don't matter, but I've got the Fairfax, and I love the camo. It's delicious and shiny. Anyway, moving on. Don't get too weird. Move on. First piece of equipment, and this is vital to this class. Oh, in fact, fuck it. Everything is vital to this class. That's why I've made a superclass. Flare gun, the spot version. That is the #1 piece of equipment for close-range sniping. No close-range sniper should be without that. Equipment slot 2 is the K-bullets. That's not as vital, but it's better than, to be honest, all the other choices for mobile close-range sniping. Nothing else seems to make sense, so I've gone with K-bullets. But more on that later in the strengths and tips. Now, for grenade, I originally chose incendiary grenade, but I've gone with light anti-tank grenade because coupled with the K-bullets, it gives you some serious anti-vehicle capability. Anyway, melee doesn't matter as much. I've gone with the compact trench knife because I love sort of brass knuckles with a knife attached. But if you've unlocked the sawtooth blade, which I haven't, still, then use that. Sawtooth blade is #1 if you've got it. Otherwise, compact trench knife. And that's it for the class. I don't think I've missed anything. So yeah, let's move on to the strengths. This class has a load of strengths, so let's just get straight into it and not waste any time. The Gouveia M95 has the best rate of fire in the Scout class out of all the weapons, not including the M1903 experimental, but I'm only counting bolt-action rifles. Now, the next strength is a big one. The Gouveia M95 straight pull bolt lets you rechamber your next round while staying aimed down sight, so you don't have to break your aim between shots. Coupled with the fact that it's got the fastest fire rate, means you can do follow-up shots very accurately and quickly. Above and beyond all the other Scout weapons, even the SMLE carbine and infantry. A lot of people love that weapon, but the Gouveia M95 is actually better. Now, the next strength is also a big deal, and a lot of people don't know this. The M95 has the highest damage under 21 meters out of all Scout weapons joint with the Martini Henry, but only up to 21 meters. That's when the Martini Henry's damage climbs up to a ridiculous amount, and the M95 actually starts to fall. And just in case you didn't know, most bolt-action rifles in this game, they start at the minimum damage, and at a certain distance, they climb up to the sweet spot, like between 80 meters and 120, where they'll do their maximum damage, then it falls back down again. The M95 is unique in the Scout class in that it starts at its maximum damage, and then falls down to its minimum, like most other weapons in the game, not Scout weapons. So up close, the Gouveia M95 does the most damage. And because of its infinitely faster fire rate than the Martini Henry and its straight pull bolt letting you stay aimed down sight, the M95 is hands down the best Scout rifle for close range combat. It just is. If ever there was a Scout weapon for running and gunning at close range, this is it. Now, the next strength is, I mentioned quickly in the class loadout, the carbine variant has accurate hip fire. And that goes for the SMLE Mark III as well. I know it's bolt action, but the hip-fire accuracy of the carbine variants is actually quite reliable at close ranges. If an enemy runs around the corner, or you do into an enemy, it's accurate enough that you should hip-fire and not try to aim at very close range. In all the background gameplay in this video, I will undoubtedly include some footage of hipfire kills. Now, moving on from the primary weapon, the pistol, the Mars Automatic, has the best damage, range, velocity and mag size of all the pistols for the Scout class. The Bodeo 1889 revolver actually has slightly higher max damage, but its minimum damage isn't as good, and it has half the velocity of the Mars Automatic, and only 6 rounds compared to the Mars's 11. Now, talking about the power of the Mars pistol, it leads me nicely onto the next strength, and that is, if you hit an enemy once with a Gouvet M95, all it takes is 1 bullet from the Mars Automatic pistol to finish them off. This is possibly one of, if not the biggest strength of this class. If you shoot a target with your primary, 1 bullet with your pistol finishes them off, because it has a minimum damage of 23, which is higher than every other pistol. You see, all of the other pistols do like 13 or 15 or 17 minimum damage, and that isn't enough to always finish them off with one bullet. That is why I chose the Mars Automatic pistol for this class, because all you need is 1 bullet. The one downside of the Mars Automatic is it has a very slow fire rate, but if you only need 1 bullet, if you're accurate enough, that doesn't matter, does it? Now, the next strength is to do with the Mars pistol again. It's quite a general one. But basically, because of the accurate hipfire nature of all pistols, not just the Mars, they're all quite good with hipfire accuracy, but plus the Mars's power, together those make it a very deadly close-range weapon in its own right, not even counting the Gouvet M95. Now let's move on to the strength of your equipment. First of all, the spot flare. It cannot be overstated how important the spot flare is to this class. The spot flare reveals all enemies in the target area wherever the flare lands, which just goes perfectly hand in hand with the general close-range nature and playstyle of the Gouvet M95 carbine. Just shoot one of these towards where the enemies are most likely to be, where you know enemies are, really, and they all appear on the minimap like magic! The spot flare gun is the best piece of equipment for sniping in close range with infantry and carbine rifles. I often fire both at the same time just to cover a larger area. Keep in mind that they can be replenished by ammo pouches and crates, so as long as you're near a support soldier, you've got an infinite supply, really. Now onto the second piece of equipment, K-bullets. Now, K-bullets are generally good for deterring or even destroying enemy vehicles. Now, the K-bullets aren't as vital as the spot flare to this class, but it was the only other one that really made sense. I mean, I suppose trip bombs might be sort of useful, but because you're constantly moving and it's a close-range class, I thought K-bullets were the second best choice by far. Keep in mind that the greatest strength of the K-bullet is that it interrupts enemy vehicle repair cycles. You know, when the wheel turns and you repair your vehicle. It interrupts that. And since you have 5 K-bullets, you can interrupt 5 times, and that's not even counting if you replenish your K-bullets with an ammo pack. Obviously, they don't do as much damage as sort of any of the anti-tank explosives, but they do help contribute towards a team effort of destroying a vehicle. Not to mention, hitting a vehicle multiple times is likely to make the tank drive away out of fear, and that's important because it helps your survivability, as simple as that. Now, hand in hand with this strength is the next strength. The light anti-tank grenade, quite simply, boosts your damage to vehicles. It just gives you an even greater anti-vehicle capability. Now, I'm sure there are a bunch of strengths that I've completely forgotten about, but you've got all the main strengths of this class, so let's move on to some tips to help you play this class effectively. Now, the first tip I've got for you is sort of vitally important that you remember, really. Maintain a healthy distance from your enemies. While this class is meant for close range, close to medium range, obviously you do still have a disadvantage at close range because of shotguns and trench weapons and so on. So while I've designed this class for sort of usage in close range and actually going for objectives, don't take it too far in that direction and start charging in as though you've got a shotgun, because it just won't work. You'll end up dying. What I'm saying is you still need to be smart with this class. Don't just go charging in like you've got a shotgun. Take your time to aim, even at close range. Now, the next tip I've got for you is to go for the objectives. This is going to give you some huge XP. Typically, scout classes have no sort of real business capping flags or sort of going for the objectives, because they're long-range classes. But this class is for staying in the action, so don't be afraid to go for the objectives. Just take it from me, if you haven't already sort of used this class. Once you get used to all the aspects and the playstyle of this class needed to get good scores, you can be a real beast, even up close at close range. So if you do go for the objectives, and especially if you're like a squad leader and you're setting your own objectives, you can easily make it to the top of the scoreboard. And I'm not even bullshitting. I've been using this specific superclass for 2 days now, recording gameplay for it, and I've got to the tippy top of the scoreboard, I don't know, 5 or 6 times? Like, seriously. No exaggeration, and I'm not even that good. I'm shit. I suck balls. Now, the next tip is about using the flare gun, and the tip is to use your flare gun regularly. I know I just said how important it is, but I'll say it again. It's important. Every time you die and respawn, fire your flares towards the enemy. And if you're out of flares, make a conscious effort to find an ammo pack or crate somewhere and replenish your supply. The reason I say this is because knowing where the enemies are exactly is worth taking the time to find ammo and replenish your flares. Because when you know exactly where the enemies are, you're going to get a lot more kills, personally, than if you were to not know where they are, if that makes sense. I don't even know if I'm making any sense. Keep in mind also that for every enemy that dies within your flare's radius, you get a spot assist. So every teammate that kills an enemy within that area, you get an assist, a little bundle of points for it. So if you fire these at enemy hotspots where there's loads of enemies, you can rack up some serious XP, man. Or woman. So it's a win-win. You either get the XP from spot assists, or you kill them yourself and just get the points for killing them. So yeah, use your flares. Flare, 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 flare. Now the next tip is, don't be afraid to actually engage vehicles. The K-Bullets and the fact that this is a close-range class generally means you're going to be around vehicles quite often. So don't be afraid to sort of get stuck in and use your K-Bullets as pure damage rather than simply to interrupt a repair. All 5 K-Bullets hit means you can do some serious damage to enemy vehicles on your own, plus your light anti-tank grenade if you manage to hit the tank. Really do make you something for enemy vehicles to fear. And you're a sniper! Now, the next couple of tips are sort of for finishing enemies off. If you hit someone once with your Conveyor M95, a good tactic, as I've already mentioned, is to whip out your pistol, and finish them off with a Mars automatic with 1 bullet. Or the alternative, and it's a good alternative as well, and it might be favourable in some situations, is to keep the M95 out, but continue firing it in hip fire mode. As I've previously mentioned, the carbine variant to the M95, its hip fire is accurate, so if there's a close range enemy and you've got like most of your bullets left, most of your bullets remaining, then just get it in hip fire and spam it as fast as it can shoot, because it is a fast weapon as well. Both finishing off with your pistol and continuing to fire hip fire with the main weapon, they're both viable ways to finish enemies off, and you will soon learn which to do it in different situations. A good way to gauge which method you should use is, keep in mind that the M95 only has 5 rounds, and if you have all 5 shots remaining, maybe spam the remaining rounds in hip fire, and only whip out your pistol when you need to reload. I mean, that's a good rule of thumb. And that's all there is to this class. I'm sure there's a bunch of strengths and tips that I should have included, but I'm shit and I always miss stuff out, but you can figure out the rest for yourself. This class does require a high level of skill. If I had to grade the difficulty of all my superclasses, sort of like the difficulty rating in Overwatch for each hero, there's like a 3-star rating. 1 star is easy to figure out and use. 3 stars is really hard and it requires high amount of skill to use. I would rate this superclass as being 3 out of 3 for its difficulty and skill requirement. The fast, sort of close-range nature of this class makes it a steep learning curve if you haven't used a similar class before. And I can't stress this enough, do not be discouraged if you finish off your first couple of games with really shit sort of scores, like negative, awful, crappy scores. It is difficult to master, and you have to learn a very specific playstyle to use this class effectively. Try and have fun with it, and don't take, as always, I always say this, but don't take score and kill-to-death ratio too seriously. Have fun. Have fun. Have fun! Does it look like I'm having fun? Well, I am. Have fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like this video if you liked it, like this video if you didn't like it, and catch me in my next video. Toodles!